Hi everyone, welcome to our week one summary. So this summary that we're doing every week will give you an idea of some of the topics that we've discussed the week before, and also we will talk about the quiz questions. I'll usually do the top 3 to 5 depending on how the week went, how the quiz went. The top 3 to 5 quiz questions that were missed, I'll talk a little bit about them. But this week, because it's the first week, I do want to talk a little bit kind of about structure and then also about the discussion board. First, we'll talk about the Edpuzzle. So the Edpuzzle, which is this, will be posted usually on Monday or Tuesday. And it's just, you did an Edpuzzle in week one, and it'll be structured the same way, except there will be more questions. So there will be typically 2 to 3 questions throughout this summary based on the information found. And so you'll go through, you'll answer the questions in the Edpuzzle summary, and then I will actually go out to Edpuzzle and I will bring that information over to the Blackboard shell. So no need for you to worry about bringing the info to the shell. Not a problem there. I will bring that over to the Blackboard grading section for you. You don't have to, once you do the video and answer the questions, you're all set. There's nothing else for you to do in Edpuzzle. One other thing that I did want to mention is the discussion. So the discussion, we had some folks in class that didn't participate in the discussion last week. So I did want to make sure everyone's aware of the rules for discussion. So we have a discussion post every week, and it's posted. There's a link in the weekly classroom, which you can reach by the classroom noted on the side by week number. So obviously we're in week 2 now. But there's also a link at the top that just says discussion. You can click on that, goes to the same discussion boards. So you just click on the week 2 discussion, it'll take you in the right spot. So the initial post, your first post in the discussion board, should be up by Wednesday. So you want to have that up by Wednesday night, 11:59 RMU time. And I think most everybody in our class is in the Western PA area, or at least in the Eastern time zone. But if you're not, then keep in mind that your post does need to be up by Wednesday RMU time. So just keep that in mind. Then responses are due by Sunday, 11:59 p.m. again RMU time, and you need 2 responses to classmates to their information. They need to be substantive responses. Although in looking through the boards this week and working in there, it sounded like and looked like most folks were doing a really good job with that. And but you do want to make sure that you're posting on 3 different days during the week. So you want to post on 3 different days. So you can't just go in on Wednesday and then go back in on Sunday and get full credit. You'll get some credit, but you won't get full credit that way. You'll also see me in there. I try and post as much as possible. I do tend to post later in the week because I don't want to steal your thunder. I don't want to say something or take away something that a student could post, but I will go in there. When I pose a question, I'm not necessarily just posing the question to the person whose post it is. Please feel free to answer those questions. They are for everybody, just for purpose of generating discussion. So please feel free to just answer those questions, and it's just for purposes of keeping the discussion moving and generating discussion. So, but good job on the discussion boards generally. And the one thing that was probably the biggest question that was asked in our discussion board this week when folks looked at the videos and we had what questions would we ask of those that were in the video, was the point between small and large organizations. And I had posted this. I'm not sure if folks had seen it, but some people did, obviously. But not everybody reads every post in the discussion board, which I understand. But it's an interesting mix, of experience that you can get in a small organization. But you can also get a different mix of experience in a large organization. So I've had the luck or chance or whatever you want to say to work in both. I've worked in very small organizations. I've worked with very small organizations. Everything from a very small critical access hospital when I was doing education, traveling around the country. I've worked in a fairly small hospital in finance. I worked with physician practices, and then I worked for a very large Fortune 50 company as working as a vendor. So I've worked in every aspect, very small and very, very large. And I think that you can get different types of experience, and it all depends on what type of experience you're looking for, as to what, uh, how that, whether that is what you want at that time. For example, when I worked in the fairly small hospital here in the town that I live in upstate New York, at that time it was great. I was just really getting into the hospital setting. I was able to work in finance, and my hat that I was hired to wear was financial analyst. But in that role, I got to get into managed care contracts administration, and then also compliance, which I ended up moving into full time and becoming a compliance officer at a different institution. So that the fact that it was a small institution and allowed me to wear many hats actually jump started my career to move in a different direction. Whereas if you work at a very large organization, for example, when I worked for the United Health Group, um, you wear your hat and that's about it. So you don't necessarily have the opportunity to work on work through multiple areas unless you get involved with a task force or a committee. For example, when I was with the United Health Group, I did have the opportunity to work on a committee that was cross-functional, and I did get to finally meet folks that were outside of my area, which was actually publishing. I worked for Ingenix, which then became Optum, which was a publishing group for medical code books and medical compliance materials, etc. But so I did finally get to meet people outside of that area. But when you work in a very large organization, you don't necessarily get that cross-pollination of other areas. So really important to keep that in mind. If you're looking for a very broad experience, you may want to go to a small organization. If you're looking for a very deep experience and focus very much on just your area, you may want to stay with a larger organization. They're both good. They're both can provide you excellent experience, and it may just be based on what's available to you at that time. Another thing that I wanted to talk about was leadership. So we had information on leadership competencies and what types of things were important in different settings. So maybe nursing home versus hospital versus physician practice, etc. And a lot of folks mention different things like communication, ethics, flexibility, adaptability, etc. And this is a really neat graph about the top 10 leadership competencies when this is Harvard Business Review had talked to 195 leaders across the world. This is actually an international study. They talked to 195 leaders, and these particular qualities rose to the top of the most important top 10 competencies. And you'll see the most important was truly high ethical and moral standards. But they were kind of grouped into 5 themes: strong ethics and safety, self-organizing, efficient learning, nurtures growth, and connection and belonging. But you'll see in here a lot of the ones that you all had mentioned in the discussion board: ethics, communication, here, move my communication, flexibility, more communication here. But the things are, as a leader, you have to be ethical. First off, that's really the key. But you need to communicate goals. You need to communicate expectations. You need to communicate, period. But then you need to be flexible. You need to be open. And you need to be mentoring and helping folks grow into leaders. So it's really leadership is transitioning from that dictatorial standpoint that it used to be into where leaders are now. The role of a leader is to grow more leaders. That's really the new role of the leader. So, okay, so let's talk. I have 3 quiz questions that I just want to talk about briefly. The first one, the question was, the primary objectives of a healthcare system include all of the following except. I won't go through all of the answers, but the correct answer was delivering healthcare services using the most current technology regardless of cost. So that obviously that is not what we want. We don't want, a primary objective of the healthcare system is not to spend a lot of money. We don't want to do that. So delivering healthcare services using the most current technology, yeah, that's fabulous. That is definitely what we would want to do. But our focus now is value-based services. So we really want to deliver high-quality services at the lowest cost possible. So it was the fact that said regardless of cost in that really knocked that one out. Next one, what is the major objective of the Affordable Care Act? So our answer to this is to provide insurance coverage. So that really, of the answers given, reduce cost, enhance quality, simplify administration, and provide insurance coverage, the main one there was to provide insurance coverage. The answer chosen most often incorrectly was to reduce cost, and ultimately, we hope to reduce costs through the ACA, but I would say that's not really occurring widely at this point. And through the text as it discussed the Affordable Care Act, at least there in the first chapter, it doesn't talk too much about cost reductions. The purpose of the ACA, the major objective, obviously, is to provide insurance coverage to those that do not have and make that transition for folks that don't have coverage. The last question I'll mention, in the U.S., federally qualified health centers are funded to, the correct answer was C, serve as a safety net for those who have difficulty getting needed primary care. So federally qualified health centers, that's really what they do. They are typically a kind of a primary care center or like a clinic in an area that's medically underserved or a rural area. So they get funding from the government to be able to do that. And we actually have an FQHC in downtown Pittsburgh that helps to serve, and obviously downtown Pittsburgh, not a rural area, but it is a medically underserved area. So they get funding from the government to be able to provide care to folks that otherwise would not able to be accessing that care. So that is the purpose there. They don't necessarily meet all the needs. They really kind of focus on primary care and preventative care in these medically underserved areas, be it a rural area or it could be an urban area. It's just medically underserved in some way. So that is that's our summary for this week. If you have any questions about items for the week, I'll be getting grading done over the next few days. If you have any questions about this week or upcoming work, please just let me know, and I will see everyone in the discussion boards. Thanks so much.